Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Geek Press podcast. This is co-host Noah here, telling you that if you like the podcast, don't be afraid to leave us a like, a comment on whatever streaming platform you're listening or watching this on. Today on this episode, Lewis and I have a spooky episode where we talk about our favorite horror movies and what we think makes horror so good. Thank you for listening. Let's get to it.
As soon as I click record, you go duddy, duddy.
didn't know you were going to
And with that is the opening to episode 26 of the Geek Press podcast. Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luis Gutierrez. Welcome to a new episode, and I am joined as always, as you just heard right now, by my co-host Noah Garcia.
Howdy, y'all. I have the clingiest dog in the world, and honestly, is that anyone's fault?
Yes,
No.
it's your fault. Your dog has become too dependent on you.
Oh, I just love things that love me. That's that's the thing about dogs and cats. Dogs are needy. Cats just do their own thing. So I guess that's why I prefer dogs. I like an animal that needs me, which says
I've
something about me. That says something about me, and I understand it.
nah.
And
I just hate
I'm not doing anything
cats.
about it.
I,
I
I'm.
just don't trust them.
I remember there was this whole You just reminded me of. You just gave me a war flashback back to my
I broke the floodgates of memory.
yeah, back to the Alphi days. As much as I try to bury those memories, something always brings it back up. And I remember our professor. She went on this whole tangent. It was one of many tangents she fucking went on,
Mhm.
and it was like something along. She didn't say it verbatim, but this is like the highlight of what she said.
Okay.
When I get pets, I don't like dogs. Like dogs are too needy. They want too much. This and that. Blah 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 blah. You gotta do too much for them. Like who would want a dog as a pet? That's why I like cats. They leave you alone, and you don't have to do too much. And then I told her, you literally just described what a pet is supposed to do. They're supposed to love you and all this. Why do you have a cat then if you don't want to take care of your cat? And she was like, "Cause they just leave me alone. Like if I go home, my dog's gonna start bombarding me and like want my attention." I'm like, "That's what they're supposed to do." And it
You
was this
know,
whole argument. We went back and forth.
the thing about cats is that they're almost like roommates in the sense that they'll go to you when they want to give affection, but they don't constantly give it to you. Like they have their own shit going on. And the thing about dogs is that they're more like active and like wanting your attention and like emotion from you. So it's just kind of, I don't know, cats, they can be very loving, but it's going to be on their terms, not yours.
Yeah, see, I don't fly with that. No, 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 no.
Mhm.
I'm I'm the one
So
feeding you and shit. So you better give me attention when I need it too.
hopefully the things we've said says nothing psychologically about the two of us. But yes, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast where we just talk about pop culture, our lives, etc., etc. Now, what have you been watching lately, Lewis? Is there anything new you've been paying attention to? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, so I have a list of
Oh, a
names.
Liz, she's fancy today.
And on this list of names is a list of movies I saw this year and a list of shows I saw this year. And I actually saw a new movie, and it is called Lyle Lyle Crocodile. It is a movie about a crocodile who can sing, but he talks, but he can only talk when he sings. And it's starring Shawn Mendes.
Is this like an animated feature? Is this live action?
Think
What is this?
think like a Curious George live action, like the alligator CG,
Oh,
but everything else is real.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Don't watch it. It's
Shawn
bad.
Mendes is a singer, right?
Yes, he's a singer. He was with
Oh,
another singer
Camila
named,
Cabello.
yeah, he was with her.
It took me a second.
But
But oh,
I'll
why
go
did
for
you
it.
watch this?
I like crocodiles, and I haven't seen a movie in a while, and I was like, okay, why not? I like movies. I like crocodiles. Let's put them together. And the
Well,
CG was
mhm.
often pretty bad, and like there was parts in the movie too where like this little kid's picking up a cat, and the cat's like super CG, and the eyes look all funny. It was weird. It was a weird movie.
It's funny because we can do amazing things with CG, but sometimes I feel like we're just not there.
Yes, and that was very much the case. That was very, very much the case. But
Is
yeah,
it?
I went. Oh,
Mhm.
go for it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I went to go watch that, and like, there was it's a kids movie, obviously,
Mhm,
so there's, like, that whole, like, kids tropes in this and that, like, the family like, the mom making, like, a big breakfast and the family not
mhm,
eating it, and the dad be like, "I gotta go," and just grabs a piece of toast and leaves. I'm like,
mhm.
"Man, go fuck yourself. Your wife just made all this breakfast. The least you can do is get some," you know? And
You know what? Oh,
but, yeah, so that's how, like, the movie was right there, and it was, like, extremely funny too in the sense where, like, when the alligator would be walking, you could clearly tell there was somebody in a costume. Like, I can't, like I don't know how to, like, really explain it all too well, but imagine, like, a guy kind of like a Titan walk. There we go, that's the explanation I can do. Like, this guy is doing a Titan walk, and you just see the alligator walking, like, back and forth, and you're like, "Bro, that it just looks so sloppy," and yeah, but then again, the movie is literally made for kids, but it does have some cute moments in it too, where, like, one thing I'm a fan of, I forgot, I think it was, like, Peter Rabbit. I watched all the Peter Rabbit movies too. And Peter Rabbit, there's a lot of scenes where the the woman of the show of the movie in Peter Rabbit is drawing the rabbits, but they're doing it in the book style. And they also did that in the movie of Lyle Lyle Crocodile where, like, the wife is drawing the crocodile, but she does it in the book style. I'm like, "Oh, that's cute. That's cool." So that was cool, but overall, wouldn't recommend it. There was, like, a good song or 2 in it. But yeah, that was the movie I saw, but there is also some shows I did finish just the other day too. I finished Archer season 13. Good. Show's like fine wine, it gets better and better every time.
Quality television right there.
Yeah. I watched
Yeah.
She-Hulk. It's a show. And yeah, those are the only 2 shows that I finished right now, but at the moment I'm playing catch up with House of Dragon.
Mhm,
Um, Pretty good. It's a really good show. I didn't realize it until the other day, but Elizabeth kind of like it's like it's so obvious. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that. But George R. R. Martin has a thing with incest, a little
mhm.
weird. And then like there was like the sex scene that it was like foreplay, I guess you could say, but they were about to fuck. Spoiler alert for anyone who's not caught up for like episode like 5. I'm pretty behind. I'm like a handful of episodes behind. But there's a part where Matt Smith's character, he's also in Morbius. I don't know any of these characters' names, by the way.
Yeah, you just know the actors. They're all like Deseris, Gadaris, Lavaris. You don't know the actor names.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up the thing right now as I'm talking. But okay, so there's a part where Matt Smith's character Damien is with Princess Renee, whatever her name is. You know who I'm talking about if you watch the show. And they're kind of walking around the town and he's showing her like how commoners live, and she's like, yeah, this is cool. It kind of reminded me of that scene in and fuck, what was it, Titanic, where they go under ship and like you see like all the poor people having fun, they're all like having the time of their lives. It was kind of like that, and it was also like he was showing her like how like the common folk view the Targaryens. And so then it ends with them going to, a brothel, and he's explaining, like, "You could fuck whoever you want, blah, 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 you don't," you know? And then they, like, start, like, making out, like, taking off their clothes and stuff, and it's supposed to be, like, this hot and heavy scene, but I'm like, "But you're her uncle, and this is weird. Why are you trying to make this like a sexy scene, you know?" And that's just, like,
Mhm.
that was the whole thing, and, yeah, my girlfriend and
It
I were talking about it that, like, he just has this weird thing with incest. You probably have
you
more to
know,
talk about this.
it's something that's inevitable whenever you do anything with the Targaryens in Westeros because they're that one singular family and they wanna keep the Targaryen blood within them, they have to do incest, like, that's just their family rule.
Oh, that's a
Like
thing? Like, okay,
yeah,
okay.
because all of Old Valyria was destroyed in some weird mystical thing, like, it was completely destroyed. So, like, those Targaryens that came over are the only ones that they know of that have, like, that Targaryen blood within them, like, of Old Valyria. So it's this weird keep the blood in the family. Like sometimes they'll date out, like in certain circumstances, but they always try to have those who date out come back in, so like the blood keeps mixing.
Hmm.
So that's often why they kind of do the incest thing. In fact, the whole reason that the first king fell, Aegon, I think his name was, is because people said that because he was such an incest, a product of incest, like it had eventually messed with him and he had gone mad. And that's why what's Cersei's brother's name?
Jamie?
Uh Jamie had seen the old king do so much effed up shit that he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna kill him. He just kills him.
Mhm.
So the Targaryens do have a lot of incest blood, and it is like to keep like like their special. I wouldn't say they have magical in their blood, but like their bloodline
Very
to keep it
Aryan.
more consistent. Yeah, it's very Aryan race. It's very gross,
But the
and I
fact that
think.
that's even, like,
Mhm,
a thing and it's, like, kind of, like, popularized, it's like,
mhm.
like, I've seen oh, go for it. I was gonna cut you off.
No, I think it's weird. I think it's kind of
I
if
get it,
you
it's not
were
real too, you know?
not real, but also if when he wrote it, he said there was just three of them. Like he could have been like, oh, there was a whole family that came over.
Mhm.
But at the begin when in the lore, there's only 3 of them, this guy and his 2 sisters.
Ah.
Like, they came over and conquered stuff, I believe. But he could have been like, "Oh, yeah, it was a whole family with a bunch of people," but,
Uh-huh.
it's weird to me.
But yeah, besides Lyle the Crocodile and House of Dragons and Archer, those are pretty much the things I've been watching. Archer was really good. Like this was
Mhm.
probably one of the better seasons as of late, that I remember because I know they come out like they've been doing like once a year seasons. And this one right here, I was like, man, this was really good. Like, and I was genuinely surprised too because I want to say, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first season they're doing after the death of the cast member because she passed away. The one who plays his mother, Arlery,
I I I
Mallory.
I don't know. I don't watch it.
Oh, okay. Well, the voice actor who does Mallory, she's also
Mhm.
in what was that? She's also in Arrested Development. She was the mom. If you ever watched it,
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah, she passed away last year, I believe, and this was the first season they did without her, and it was
Mhm.
very much kind of like her presence was very much in the show still, very much. But I was like, I wonder how they're gonna do this now, especially because she is such a main character of the show, like such a pivotal role of of the dynamic, and they did really well given the circumstances that she's not there. And that's the part that really like I was like, man, like that's what even made the show just as good. And I'm like you did her character right still, and it still very much felt like Archer without a key component of Archer being there.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now. It's who in Archer. Archer's mother. She's like
Yeah,
head of the agency.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because the
Okay.
whole thing is too is like who's the leader now? She was
Mhm.
and everyone's it's kind of like very like to bring it back to like Game of Thrones, the very Game of Thrones thing where they're all trying to be the leader, and they're all trying to like see like oh what about this, and we have to live on mother's memory, blah blah blah. But it was really good. It was really really good. What? But yeah, I know
Uh,
I talked a lot for a couple of minutes.
no, it's okay. So as for the things that I've been really interested in lately, if you guys listened to our last episode with our mutual friend Rodolfo Juarez Pinedo III, he recommended this book called Undocumented Americans by Carla Villavicencio, which I butchered that last name because I'm white, but that's fine. I've been reading that book. I purchased it. It's really good. It talks a lot about how on nine like just undocumented peoples in general, but like what some of the earlier chapters are about the what happened at 9/11 and about how
It's
first
for like
respond
Hispanic people?
yeah, because first responders were the
Hmm.
first one there, but the one second were undocumented peoples because who do you think cleaned everything up?
Oh
They because
shit,
they
I never
hire
thought about that.
contractors, and those hot contractors hire subcontractors, and those subcontractors contractors just hire a bunch of like undocumented people on the corner that need work.
What
And
the fuck? I
mm-hmm,
never thought about that. Holy shit.
because you
That's
have these
such a
big
trip.
companies that'll just hire down, 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 and it's
Yeah, and
crazy
so they
because
spin like pennies on a dollar, right?
exactly. And the thing is that a lot of these undocumented workers that worked at 9/11 cleaning everything up, they got so much stuff in their lungs. They weren't really given PPE. They didn't really
Holy
have
fuck.
boots. So a lot of these people developed cancer, had lung issues, And although there was a fund that gave victims of 9/11 some financial aid, the cutoff for that was around the time a lot of these people were starting to show symptoms of how their body was messed up from cleaning up 9/11. And the thing
Fuck.
is that people are so nervous about documentation because if you have your name written down, the government can say, "Hey, we saw your name down there. We can get
Yeah,
you."
you're on the list now.
So the thing about getting access to that financial aid is that you have to have some sort of evidence that you were there working that day.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these people were like, "Just give me the cash, I'll go clean." So a lot of people didn't have documentation that they worked that day. So it's insane. It's insane.
What the fuck? That's so
Yeah.
fucked up.
And then that was one of the chapters. Another chapter was about hurricane, not Katrina, but another hurricane, I think Sandy, and about
Mm-hmm.
how undocumented peoples were there helping, and like a lot of them were hired to like dig to help empty basements, and like they'd have to worry about stepping down if there was an electrical wire that would just kill them. And
Fuck.
it's insane. It's insane. It's a really good book, and I know we talked about it in last week's podcast about how sometimes these pieces of literature that are really good to read are hard for you to get because they're in the academic world. But this book was like $14 on Amazon. So I was really happy that I could just pick it up and read these stories. And I'm slowly going through it, but it's such a good book. It's so good. I would recommend anyone to get it. It's called The Undocumented Americans. It's really good. And that's what I've
That's
been reading.
damn.
hmm
That's
It's
that's a lot.
it is a lot, and I'm only like a couple chapters in, and it's insane. But that's what I've been reading. And as for watching, I kind of have been keeping the same answers as last week, which is like, I'm slowly working my way through Stargirl. I'm slowly working my way through Rings of Power, which I know just ended. A friend of ours, Jake,
Yeah, I
just got
haven't
mad
even
at me.
started it.
A friend of ours, Jake, just got mad at me. He's just like, "I'm very disappointed in you," and I'm just like, "I know, I'm sorry, but the episodes are an hour long."
Like a flat like 60 minutes.
No, it's like around that time, like the 40.
Oh, okay.
So it's a commitment, and then whenever I have the time, I forget to do it, and when I don't have the time, I do something else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I just gotta start sitting down and be like, well, now that the show's all out, I can just sit down and watch it, and that's kind of the main thing I've been reading and watching. So that's been me pretty much.
So you know what? You can only
Mhm.
hide behind the college excuse for much longer.
I know I'm graduating this spring. I can no longer be like, I have class. I can be like, I got there's
Damn.
no excuse.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
speaking of that,
hmm
how's your internship going? We're just
We
gonna
don't
talk.
we don't need to talk about that. Just I okay, guys. If you're in an internship and a job, and you're like me and you want to keep busy because you need hours, do what I did and immediately say, I will not just do this one thing. Please give me other things to do. Because if it were up to them, I would just do video and I'd have no hours. So if you're a college student and you need an internship, when they go in and they say, we want you to do this, say yes, but also say, I need to be doing other things. Like they would
uh,
just want me to video edit, and that would be like a couple hours a week. No, I need 100 hours. So I'm going to do other projects. So it's that kind of
I,
thing.
I'm not saying that you got to do this or do that,
Mhm.
but at the opportunity comes the finesse
If the
system.
opportunity,
Yeah, the opportunity may present itself, and I'm not saying to do it or condone these actions,
we're
but
not saying
sometimes
nothing.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Mhm.
Ain't no one gonna. It's not gonna hurt anyone. Not
Yeah,
free labor. You're getting
yeah.
exploited. That's the truth of it. So
Well,
do what you gotta do.
just add a little hour to the end of your seat. Nobody's gonna pay
Yeah,
attention to it.
right there. If you did 4 hours, dock a one in front of that. You did 14, but I'm not saying to do that
Yeah,
here.
sometimes you write slowly. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, sometimes a 4 hour may turn into a 5 hour, but hey, I'm walking here.
this, is, this is random, but when you mentioned free labor, it just brought me back to the fact that I was going to Smart and Final with my grandfather years ago, and we were going to get groceries, and there was a picket line in front of Smart and Final. No, it was Food for Less. It was Food for Less, and there was a picket line, and
Okay.
they were picketing, and my grandpa walked straight through that line. He did not care. He did not care at all. And when we got home, I told my mom like a fun tidbit, and my mom was just like, "Dad, what the hell? What's wrong with you? You're," and she pointed at my grandpa, and she was like, "Your great great grandfather fought for Pancho Villa in the Revolution of Mexico, and this is how you're honoring him." And my grandpa was just like, "I had to get groceries. I don't know what to tell you."
Yeah, these people can fight all they want, but I gotta
uh,
eat.
yeah, I gotta get. I gotta. I'm hungry. And it's funny because it was
uh,
it was in a shopping center where there was like a Target, a Food for Less, there was a Walmart, but he was just like, "No, I don't care. I'm already parked here. I'm just gonna go in."
I love that.
On some levels, I hate that, and on other levels, I deeply respect it because he was just like, "I gotta live my life." Like,
Yeah, like
power
I'm a
to you,
man on a
man.
mission.
He had to buy his corn and chicken for the week. I don't know. But that was kind of a nightmare situation to be you know seeing those people protesting, and I guess that's kind of the theme for this week's episode is nightmares. Today we're going to
Dun,
talk
dun,
about
dun.
and we're going to talk about our favorite scary movies, maybe scary movies that are so bad they're scary. And let's just say, Lewis, the first thing that comes to your mind when someone says, "Oh, what scary movie do you recommend?" What's the first thing that pops into your head?
First scary movie. I remember as a kid, I used to be really afraid of Jeepers Creepers. Did you ever watch that movie?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it, but
So, if memory serves right, it's like a vampire monster thing, you know? It's your typical like thing where he
mhm,
goes after teenagers. That's like
mhm,
the high and low of it.
mhm,
But the catch is he will only attack if I remember right because I know they changed some stuff up as the franchise goes on. He
mhm.
only attacks if you play his song, and then you always get these stupid ass teenagers. I'm gonna play the song, you know,
I
and so the song goes like Jeepers Creepers, would you
Where'd you
get
get
so
them
bad?
peepers? Oh, I
Oh
thought it
yeah,
was.
there you go. Yeah,
I
maybe have been that one.
I
And
I've
then
heard the
so the whole
song.
yeah, so the whole thing was it was like he would kill teenagers, and if I
Mhm.
remember right, he would steal their eyes and like
Oh God.
replace his eyes with or something like that.
Oh my God.
And that movie used to scare the fuck out of me as a kid. Like I was just genuinely afraid of that. And then when as a
Mhm,
kid, as a young kid, sometimes you think what you're seeing on movies is real, and
mhm.
so I'm like, oh my god, it stays with you. Lo and behold, when I heard that song on the radio as a kid, I lost my fucking shit. I was like,
Mhm.
no, turn it off. David Griffin's gonna come kill me. Like that. So yeah, that had like
Oh my
effects
God.
past the movie. I just remember that scaring the shit out of me.
Have you looked at it with an adult eye, and is it still as scary, do you feel?
I've seen clips like on TikTok and like
Mhm,
Twitter, and I'm like, huh, yeah, this scene. I look at it now with like, this is like gonna sound like pretentious, but like a
mhm,
critic guy, I'm like, this is actually a pretty good scene. Like the way
mhm,
yeah, it doesn't scare me anymore. But nah, that's a lie. There's still a little part because it's like
mhm.
that little kid in you never really leaves.
Yeah.
So like there is some parts of like that scares me, but I
Mhm,
could like watch the movie now and kind of like analyze it. Like okay, this is what scared me. I could see that, you know.
mhm. I'll have to
But
watch
yeah,
that
Jeepers
now.
Creepers.
The thing is that sounds like a really cool concept, and I'm
Uh huh.
surprised insane Hollywood people haven't tried to remake it or something.
Yeah, because I remember the first one, and fuck, I'm gonna look up the cast as I talk.
Mhm,
But the first one had a really good. He had a really prominent actor.
mhm.
Um, and then the second one,
Oh, so there have been multiple ones.
yeah, there's been okay. Justin Long, do you know who? No, yeah, do you know who he is?
That name sounds familiar, but no.
He was a white boy that's like in lots of things. He was in Dodgeball. He was the main character in Dodgeball,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and he was also in Accepted.
Mhm,
He's like the main character of the movie, but the second Jeepers Creepers I never saw it because I was too scared.
mhm,
Um, it's like these kids are like on a field trip or whatever, and their bus gets like the main premise of the movie, from what I could put together, is
mhm,
like their bus gets shut down or it essentially dies in the middle of like butt fuck nowhere on this one way road, and Jeepers Creepers is like picking them off one by one while they're in the bus.
mhm,
So yeah, it's pretty good. Like from what I've seen, there's like five of them I could put together.
mhm.
But
That's insane. It must have done really
yeah,
well if there's five of them.
but it's one of those things too where it's the further you get into it, the worse it gets, you know?
Oh yeah, it's one of those.
Apparently there was one that came out this year called Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Oh
That doesn't sound
no, that
good. That
sounds
doesn't sound good.
bad.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It has a 2.4 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 45% liked on Google users. So yeah, that just kind of looks really bad.
You know what? Whenever I see the word reborn in the title of a movie, I'm just like, no, that's probably not
You
going to
know,
be good.
this has become the official Jeepers Creepers Reborn
Mhm,
podcast because I'm looking at this review. I'm not going to say this person's name,
mhm,
but they gave it a 1 star and they say the
mhm,
worst movie in the franchise. No plot, no story, absolutely nothing. The franchise first two movies was the best in keeping the plot. Even the third, which was a prequel, which I didn't know
mhm.
that apparently,
Oh.
was a prequel, was also good and do understand the plot. But I am really disheartened to see how they ended up with a good, promising franchise. I want to
Mhm.
ask the director, sir, what is the plot, or are you guys making up a story? Why this movie story not related to others? Emoji, emoji, emoji.
Oh wow. And
So yeah.
fun fact, listeners, that is Lewis's review. He just didn't want to out himself. He didn't want to out himself. So he's like, yeah, that's my review.
Yeah, that's one of
Mhm.
the horror movies I could recommend. There's a few others that are coming to mind as I'm thinking, but I'll let you go.
I
We
don't
just go
know.
back.
I don't know if this exactly constitutes horror, but the earliest horror thing I can remember is Signs.
That's the one with Joaquin Phoenix, right?
That's the one where it's like you never see the alien until the end.
Yeah, that had Joaquin
Yeah,
Phoenix in it.
did it? I don't
Yeah,
remember at
he
all.
was like the main character.
I
He was
don't
one of the
remember
main
him at
characters.
all.
That
I
movie
just,
I remember
mhm.
too. That scared the shit out. Okay, I'll go for it, go for
No,
it.
it did. I remember it was just something about del- a lot of horror movies in the early like 80s, 90s, 70s. They were either
That was like
like,
a 2000s
was
movie.
it a 2000s? Oh God,
Yeah,
I'm
hold on.
old.
That
Okay,
was
but
2002.
okay, well, what I'm talking about is the trend. I'm glad I'm editing this. I'm gonna edit all that all out. What I'm talking about is the trend of lots of horror movies either show the monster like at the beginning and it's something you deal with the entire movie, or it's a delayed reveal where you see all the monster's actions, like something like Alien. Like you don't see the alien until like near the end, but you see all the effed up things the alien and the things it produces does. You know what I mean? So
Mhm,
aliens is
mhm.
one of those things where like as a kid you never see the aliens, but you hear all these awful things. You see how it's affecting the world and the family and you're freaked out. And then like as a little kid you can't really like be like that's bad CGI. So when you finally like see the alien you're like, "Oh my god, it's here, it's here." Then you freak out. And it's such a good movie. I haven't watched it as an adult. I don't know if it holds up, but I just it's one of those things that I remember just being like genuine fear at the end when I'm like, it's alien, no, you know.
That's always like a good thing too. It's like
Mm-hmm.
because you if done properly, it's good. It's like, yeah, let's not show the big monster
Mm-hmm.
until the end of the movie. Let's let all the suspense build up. But then like the double-edged sword of that, it's like in your head you start thinking of like whatever
Mm-hmm.
you think is scary, you know, like this horrible, evil looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, oh, it's a little twig, or
Yeah,
I don't know. That's always a risk because
yeah.
that could be the repercussions of it.
You have to have like a really good monster design because if you do this whole thing and then it's some weird CGI fuckfest, it's just like I've built up the scariest thing in my head and I need to see something that's either comparable to it or better. And if I don't, then it ruins all the tension you've built up.
Like what I thought was an interesting choice was like in Bird Box,
Hmm.
you never see the monster
Yeah.
ever. And then I saw like a thing on Twitter or something. It was like one of the people on set, maybe the director. He was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, this was the monster that was chasing him. It was like a giant baby head, like a doll thing."
Ugh.
But yeah, he was. I'm assuming that was like a placeholder
Hmm.
because it was clearly like a prop piece that you know when like Thanos is on set, Josh Brolin's wearing like the
Yeah.
big. It was something like that. So I'm assuming they were gonna do something with it, but it was
Hmm.
pretty funny to look at it nonetheless.
You know, I love that. I have never actually seen Bird Box, but I love the idea of like you. Now, do you see them with the blindfold moving, or how does the camera work like that?
Um.
Because I know they have to
Okay.
keep themselves blind or something, right?
So I it's been a while since I've seen Bird Box, but there is a few scenes where like there is a blindfold over them,
Mhm,
and you could kind of make do with what's on the other side, but that's on purpose. But then a
mhm.
lot of the scenes, if I remember correctly, it's you watching her blindfolded, and she's kind of like, "Oh, where am I going?" kind of thing, like that.
That's see, I like that because I feel
That's a
there's
good movie though. Like
mhm.
overall, Bird Box is a good movie. Besides the fact that it has Machine Gun Kelly in it, good movie.
So is that one of the more like Machine Gun Kelly's in it?
Yeah, he's in it. He's like this
Oh,
bad boy.
I don't
It's
know if I
him
want to
and
see it
some.
now.
He's in it for like okay, so I'm not gonna give anything away, but
Okay.
it's like typical like zombie movie or horror movie. It's like,
Hmm.
oh my god, we're a bunch of strangers bunched up together. He's one of the strangers bunched up. He's like not really a main character
Hmm.
in the movie, but he's in it.
Okay, so that's I won't be too annoyed.
Yeah, he's not even in it all that long either, if I remember correctly.
Spoilers for Bird Box in 2022. Sorry,
But
guys.
I think a movie that that still fucks with me till this day.
Okay,
I
lay it
haven't
on
seen
me.
it in a while, but I remember watching it as a kid and it scared the shit out of me. And there's a specific scene I'm going to talk about right now too. But I watched it when I was like mid career in college,
Hmm.
and I was like, holy fuck, this is scary. Is The Hills Have Eyes?
Oh yeah, that's a classic of the 2000s.
And there's a scene specifically. It was like a rape scene.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was that's the biggest part that I was like, oh, made me feel like I felt like I needed to take a shower after watching the scene. And hats off to like the crew and all that for projecting that eerie feeling to me. But essentially what happens is that like they're all like the
Hmm.
people living in the hills, they attack the RV at night. And
Ugh.
it's like this giant like montage of like the family like fighting off the people. And shit really hits the fan when because their dad or grandpa have been missing for this
Hmm.
point in the movie for a little while, and it's presumed that they took him or something like
Hmm.
that. It's been a while since I've seen it, and then all of a sudden they find him being crucified and burned alive, like maybe like 20, 30 yards away from them. And
Hmm.
as that happens, the family splits and then they attack, and then the so like I think like the adults are trying to like obviously like free like the grandpa or whatever, but he's burning alive and they're fighting. I want to say they're fighting him off or something like that.
Hmm.
And then it cuts back to the kids at the RV, and then like they're trying to fight off the people, and then it's like this like they're you know it's gonna get kind of gruesome right here, but like one of the guys like pins down this girl and proceeds to rape her, and then like
Hmm.
I was just ah man, that whole scene right there is just fuck. It's intense. It's a really intense scene, and that specific part of the movie like scared the fuck out of me as a kid. Like as someone who didn't really understand, as a young child,
Hmm.
didn't know what rape was. That still scared the shit out of me.
Hmm.
And then going back and watching as a young adult now, I'm like, holy shit, this was fucking intense.
What's your
Like,
opinion on, like sexual violence in horror? Because I think it's interesting because horror, I feel like a lot of it is it's kind of on two levels. It's sort
mhm,
of the fear of like of ourselves psychological, and then there's like the physical fear. Like those are the two levels you'll work on. And sometimes it's like,
uh-huh,
oh, like this horror movie is really about like xenophobia, or this horror movie is just straight up gore. Like there are different
mhm,
levels of horror. But I always find like sexual violence in horror films to be kind of off-putting, just because it's so real, and these are
yeah,
things that real happen, that
mhm,
it's kind of disturbing for me, because I'll watch something like Signs. I'm just like, okay, well, an alien's not gonna happen, but like sexual violence is something that could happen. So I don't
mhm.
know. It's a weird line you have to walk for
I
me. But what do
I
you think?
I agree with you. It's just
Hmm.
like, both men and women do get raped, and you see more it's like, I'm not gonna be a fucking idiot. It's more prominent in women,
Hmm.
and I'm not gonna deny that. And it's like you said, it's a slippery slope, and the only way I say like it's okay in a movie is if like if it has a plot point,
Hmm.
if it genuinely is like pushing the plot in one direction or another.
if that makes sense, you know? If
Like it's
it's
not
not
the violence for the sake of the violence. It has something. It
yeah,
has to have something to do with the story.
because if memory serves
Mm-hmm.
me correct, again, it's been a while since I've seen The Hills Have Eyes, but I think that girl who ends up getting raped by one of the monsters or one of the people,
Mm-hmm.
she ends up killing every single one of them. Like
Mm-hmm.
and she's like the sole survivor of like the family.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean like so that had like a like again, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but like you could argue that was like serving motivation, like okay, I'm gonna take down every one of these motherfuckers now,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. And so, but like going back to what I was saying, if it's in there just to be in there, just to be like a weird thing that doesn't do anything to progress the plot or anything, I'm like, okay, that was just literally torture porn for the sake of torture porn.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like, could she still have the same motivation if they had just like stabbed her or something, or like beat her up?
Yeah, see, then there's
Like, did
that
it
again
have to be
argument
rape?
too.
And there
Hmm.
is that trope of like woman scorned. Now she's coming, but now she's a baddie out for revenge. You know what I mean? Like, just look at Kill
Hmm.
Bill. Like they shot her, they did
I
it. Now
haven't
she's a
seen Kill
woman
Bill in a
scorned,
while.
but like she's a woman scorned coming back to take vengeance, or like that is a
Mm-hmm.
trope in movies where like, oh, she was raped and now she's like, I mean, look at Sansa Stark in Game of Thrones.
Oh shit, that's right, huh?
Yeah, like she was sexually assaulted by what's his face, Genji. What's his name? I don't remember.
I know who you're talking about, the bastard.
Yeah, the bastard, the sadistic guy who took over Winterfell. He
You know,
sexually
I really
assaulted
like his
her.
character though.
That's another. We're gonna unpack that later. We're gonna unpack that
Not for that
later.
reason. No, let me. I just
Okay,
realized
okay.
how it sounded. Not for that reason.
Hmm.
No, not for that reason. I liked his character because, like, out of all of them,
Hmm.
he was like the only truly evil motherfucker. Like
Hmm.
all of, like, if you kind of look at everyone else, you're like, okay, I can kind of see some rhyme or reason. Nah, not this guy. He was the Joker of Game of
Yeah,
Thrones.
he was just straight up a villain.
Yeah,
There
that's what
was
I
no
liked.
sympathy.
Yeah.
I can respect that in a sense, but it's just like, you know, like, oh, she got raped, and now all of a sudden she's taking these seriously, and all of a sudden, like, she's like, oh, now she's like a badass. Like the way it was framed like that, and it's not that sexual assault doesn't change people. It's just it's weird how commonplace that is in like
That's too
media.
real. It's too
Hmm.
real.
Like you,
But
like she saw everyone in her family dead. I think one person would harden after seeing all of that. You
uh-huh.
know, like I don't know. Poor Sansa. That's a whole other, but that's a whole other conversation. You know, that's for a Game of
Welcome to the
Thrones
Game of Thrones
episode.
podcast.
Welcome to the Game of Thrones podcast with one guy who's read the books and one guy who's seen all the episodes. And I've only seen the first season, and I'll be honest with everyone right now. I've only seen the first season and the last season of Game of Thrones.
That's an interesting take.
That is because I own the season one DVD, and then I read I was really into it, so I bought
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of the books and I sped read
There's
them.
only like 3 books or something like that. There's like not
Hold
even all
on,
that many.
I'm gonna look at my shelf right now. One, two, three, four. There's 5 books currently,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like a bunch of side books. And funny enough, the side books are my favorite compared to like the actual books.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I only watched the first and last season, but you saw the whole thing, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned in the last episode that you've been watching the House of Dragon and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. To kind of like shift lanes a little
oh
bit.
yeah,
I
let's
kind
go
of want
back.
to just go.
Let's go back.
I know. Hold on. I kind of want to keep
Mhm.
talking about this a little bit.
Okay.
I just find it weird how George R. R. Martin is just like this fat white dude. Just
Mhm.
talks. You know, I'm fat. I could say that. Okay.
Mhm.
And it's just like he's obsessed like sexual like stuff like that. It's weird. It's a little too weird, you know. Like
Mhm.
we talked about the Targaryen thing too. Like that's
Yeah.
just levels of weird. It's good storytelling, but it's
Mhm.
just weird.
It's that thing again where like we just discussed, like, is this necessary to the plot or can it be replaced with another trauma? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you specifically choosing this idea to tell this story? And is there another thing that could take that place? Or why? Like, what's the reasoning behind choosing this? And more often than not, it's just writers being weird. Like sometimes there's excuses and reasons behind it, but sometimes authors are just weird.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but enough about weirdness. What
Hmm.
about what's
Let's get
another
back to
scary movie?
horror. Let's get back to
Yeah.
horror. Now, I think you might have a divided opinion of this, but aside from Signs, when people tell me horror, the first thing I do think is of Jordan Peele movies.
I would say it's a horror. Like he's a horror. He's a
Oh my
horror
god.
director. He's a horror director. I
He's
think
a
that's a
horror
fair assumption.
of his films that he's
Except the
released.
most recent
Mhm.
one. The most recent one, I'd say it's more
No,
of like a
yeah,
thriller.
yeah. Nope was a thriller. It had a few like scary moments, but that was more of a thriller. But I think
Mm-hmm.
when I think of horror in him, I really return to Us.
Mm.
Hands Across America, and all that
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like his first film was more like a psychological thing.
Even then, that was still pretty scary.
It was scary, but I felt like Us just hit me harder. Like the visuals of like the doppelgangers and like the
Mm-hmm.
murders and a lot of like I won't forget the horror moment of when they're spoilers for Us when they're trying to drive away and like the kid's evil doppelganger, like the kid realizes he can like kind of mimic with this doppelganger, and the doppelganger like kid like goes into the fire and starts
Mm-hmm.
burning alive, and like that's stuck in my head. That's insane shit right there.
Did you ever hear the theory that the kid
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is kind of for people who obviously who've seen Nope. So
Mm-hmm.
that scene where Noah described is like the final battle, if you will.
Yeah, it's in like the
And
the third part around the film.
what had happens, and a lot of people on the internet were thinking that, so you know how like the big twist at the end was that the girl, the mom who was tethered,
Mm-hmm.
that was into tethered was actually the original mom,
Mm-hmm.
was actually the original girl that got kidnapped, they got switched.
Mm-hmm.
So the theory is that the kid, same thing happened with the kid. That's
Mm-hmm.
why the kid was switched, and that there was a part, I remember he would always play with like a lighter that didn't work or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the theory is that the tethered kid burned his face with the lighter, and that's why he's always wearing that. So that kid
Mm-hmm.
should actually be the kid that lived at the end, was actually the one should be underground and all that. Did you ever hear about that theory?
I didn't hear that theory, but I'm not the biggest fan of that because I like it just being the mother is the only tethered
Mm-hmm.
one. And I think it's interesting because if they kind of mirror, if they have this like subconscious mirroring of each other, like the people in their other
Mm-hmm.
clones, the kid playing with the fucking lighter near his face, that's why the other kid's face is always burned.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's more interesting than the kid being switched because it's like another switch, really, like really another switch. We're gonna do another switch, but just at the end when he like looks at his mother and he's just like realizing like, oh my god, you're one of them this whole time. Like that's a really good horror for me. That's like, oh my
I
god.
I've always wanted there to be like, I know he said that
Mhm.
he would like to return to that movie, and I want to see a sequel to that so bad.
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. I don't. But,
Especially
mhm,
especially to at the end when like the camera fades and you see like the helicopters and all the tethered are holding hands.
mhm.
They're doing the literal hands across America thing. And I'm like, oh man, I would love to see that. Like
That's
the
so
repercussions.
good. Sometimes I hope he stays a little more grounded in his films because
I
I've
mean, his last one
noticed.
was about fucking aliens. How much more grounded can you be than that?
Well, no, it was also like there was commentary with the aliens about like,
Like film versus digital.
well, yeah, but like more so like how people struggle in Hollywood and media. And I noticed like, cause I talked to my aunt, like she's a big horror person. She reads all the Stephen King stuff, and she was just like, I don't understand the monkey. Why'd they keep flashbacking to this monkey? What's the whole point? And I'd be like, oh, the monkey didn't kill Stephen Young's character, so he thought he could control the alien like he controlled the monkey. And then she was like, oh, okay, that's why. And then we had a whole conversation about it. So I
You
feel
know, I
like,
was of that mindset too until my
mhm,
buddy it almost word for word what you just said.
mhm. Yeah, that's kind of like I would never say like that's what it's supposed to mean, but like I feel like that's the purpose of those scenes to be like
Mhm.
mirroring the trauma you survive in your childhood makes you think that you haven't really gotten over it, that you can survive a same thing in your adulthood, but really no, you can't. It's a whole thing and it's interesting. But Jordan Peele's a really good horror guy for me. I really enjoy his stuff.
Yeah, I know people get like conflicted with him too,
Hmm.
but I've genuinely enjoyed all of his movies. And I know he didn't make it, but did you see Candyman? It was like his studio.
Oh, did it? I've actually never seen any of the Candyman films or any of them.
So it's a like a soft reboot, if you will.
Hmm.
Like they reference the older Candymans, but it's really good. It's super,
Hmm.
like, it has a lot of commentary on like Black America and like gentrification and all that.
Hmm.
And it's super super like I don't want to give anything away. I just don't want like it's one of those things. I
Yeah.
think the less you know about it going in, the better.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really really good. If like you guys take anything out of this podcast, go watch Candyman. Super good.
Okay, I'll add that to my list right next to the guy that's eating those kids' eyes. I already
And
forgot.
Jeepers Creepers.
Jeepers creepers, where'd you get them peepers?
And then I think for me, like another horror movie that wasn't on there,
Hmm.
that scared the shit out of me as a kid. And I went back and watched it. I'm like, this movie's
Oh
fucking
yeah,
stupid.
what is it?
And it's funny because they're making a video game of it now.
Hmm.
And I'm actually kind of excited to play the video game. It's Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, I've heard that's like very much a cheesy comedy horror type thing nowadays.
Yeah, but as a kid, I just saw scary clowns killing people, and that was enough to fucking trigger me off to the woodworks. You know, that movie I would not watch that movie at all as a kid. It was just scared the fuck out of me.
I've
But
I was never a big horror. Were you as a kid? Were you a big horror person? Because I was. I grew up in a religious household, and we didn't really do horror movies. Like the scariest I got was Halloween Town, and that was at my
uh
cousin's house because I didn't have cable. So we were not a
I
horror family.
yes and no. It was just like my
Mhm.
stepdad and my mom would be like, "Oh, this is gonna scare you," and I'm like, "I'm tough. I could watch this," and I'd be like, "Oh fuck, why not this?" You know?
Yeah, you're just like because as a kid, you sometimes think you're like invincible. She's like, I'll
Hmm.
be fine, nothing will hurt me, and then suddenly you're hiding
Exactly.
behind the couch.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how it was. My parents they'd always give me a heads up, and I'm like, "Nah, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I got
Hmm.
it."
Oh my god. I remember when I also think of horror, I also think of the Insidious movies.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Those are I like all of them.
I've only saw
I've
like
seen
the
most of
first
them.
one.
Oh, I've seen most, not most of them, but I've seen several of them.
I
I
remember
think they're
Darth
pretty
Maul
good.
makes a cameo at the end.
Which one?
As the first one at the end of the first one, Darth
No,
Maul makes a
oh,
cameo.
I'm sorry. I consider the voice actor also like Darth Maul kind of. So I was like, which actor are you talking about? Because
You pretentious fuck. That was the most pretentious fucking thing I've ever heard.
you know what? I won't
But
apologize for my
but
truth.
anyway, if I said that sentence to literally anybody fucking else, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, Darth Maul, the fucking character Darth Maul." Like, fuck
I'm
out of here with
sorry. Get off of I
that.
just thought I liked him in Star Wars cartoons. I don't know. Just
Sam Whitaker. His name
Sam
is Sam
Whitaker.
Whitaker.
I'm sorry. You know I'm not good with names. I literally forgot Jeepers Creepers. So leave me alone. But yeah, those films are really good. Those ones also feel like slightly it's those horror possessed movies where like over time things get creepier and crazier.
Yeah.
And sometimes those hit really well and sometimes they don't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And those are kind of the main things I think of. Aside, oh my god, I just remembered something. This is not structured at all. What was your thoughts?
Neither are our podcasts. It's
Another
okay.
what's your opinion on the Blair Witch Project?
I love it. I love it.
That I remember that was one of the first horror movies I really saw because I he listens to this sometimes, so he might correct us. Our buddy Kevin, we went to the same high school in elementary school, him and he used to have like Halloween parties. So he invited
Hmm.
people over to come watch the Blair Witch Project, and I was like excited because I didn't watch a lot of horror movies growing up. So seeing this thing was like insane to me. Like it was, like lost footage, like they're screaming, like the quality was so bad in
The
the
tent scene.
end. Yeah, like that's. Have you ever seen? I know lots of people have controversial opinions about like film theory, game theory, Matt Pat, and all that. But did you ever see their episode on the Blair
I can't
Witch?
stand that guy, by the way. Just he's too YouTuber for me.
You know
You
what?
know.
I can watch one episode and not take it seriously and be fun, but if I watch too many, I start being like, okay, I need to watch something else.
But to answer your question, though,
Oh,
I haven't seen much of his work.
I would say watch his like film theory on the Blair Witch because the theory that they deposit there is that there is no witch, and
Hmm.
it's the girl, the one who's recording. It's her two friends planning to murder her.
Hmm.
And it was a like I know lots of people fight about his theories. I just kind of take them for fun. They're just dumb fun.
That
But
sounds like it fun. Like it could be
yeah,
fun.
it was fun because they talked about like there was a website released during the movie that like has diary entries. There's like camera recording, like this, that, and it was a fun episode. And I would advise anyone that if you like the Blair Witch to watch his YouTube episode about it, because I thought it was pretty fun. You know, it's fun to theorize.
Mm-hmm.
But
Um.
hey, that's just a Noah theory. See, I even did it wrong, but whatever.
So
Whatever.
I was gonna say something, but I
Mhm,
forgot. But there was one because I was gonna blend them together.
mhm,
But I remember The Conjuring. I saw it in high school,
mhm.
and this was one of the only movies that genuinely made me like kind of like cover my eyes.
Let
It
me
was
say something.
never.
Let me say something really quickly. I have a list on my laptop with different talking points, and right under Insidious is The Conjuring. So you go
Yeah,
for
that's right.
it.
You brought it up. That's when you
Uh-huh.
said Insidious. I was like, okay, this was all the same like
Hmm.
time where they were coming
Exactly.
out. So there was a scene in The Conjuring where I believe the main lead, the lady, she's like falling through like layers of the house.
Hmm.
And as she's like falling, she's seeing like different ghosts. And she's like, come help me, this and that. And then as she like falls down to another level, there's like a little girl or a lady, something like that. And she's like, here, I'm coming to help you. And then as like the ghost gets closer, it's like, like runs at her. And like she keeps falling down more and more until she falls to the very bottom of the house. And that scared the fuck out of me as a kid.
That is a very scary movie, and I think it's one of those things where it's like you think it kind of starts off. I don't even know how to describe it. There's just something very because it's like oh possessed little girl like possessed person, but there's just something about the way they tackle the possession is just like that works really well for that film.
Hmm.
And I remember being young too. I remember back when I was young and I watched that video and I scared the bejesus out of me, you know. So I just so I became an old man for a second. But I that was a scary movie. I remember that. Did you watch the
Hmm.
other ones? There were sequels, weren't there?
Yeah, I started to fall off a little bit once they like connected that to Annabelle and stuff like that. I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm noticing a trend with you, Lewis, that you'll watch one thing and then you won't watch any of the sequels to anything.
Well, it's because then they start like I felt like at a certain point it just becomes a cash grab, you know?
Hmm.
Because like
You're banging on the name and the
yeah,
property.
that's exactly because I saw none and I
Hmm.
knew it was gonna be bad, but that was like a prequel to like Annabelle, and then I saw like an Annabelle movie and I was like the thing that got me with The Conjuring was that like it was supposedly based on true event.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is lit. I could get behind this. I'm always down behind some supernatural stuff. But yeah, it just after a while, it's just like, especially with horror movies, I
Hmm.
feel like the more once the cat's out of the bag, sort of thing, it's like okay, you know.
No, just remind me. The Conjuring is where it's like the married couple that work together, right? Like there's a
Yeah, it's a
like,
paranormal couple.
and the girl, she's like sort of like a psychic, and the guy's like the heavy lifter, if I remember. I like them as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were
Mm-hmm.
fun, but that's a lot. What? So what kind of draws you to horror? We've talked about our favorite films, like what we think is good or bad. Now, what exactly draws you to horror films? Like, why? How do you feel like you as a person, you as an individual, like what do you get from it?
I overall, it has to be if like the plot good,
Mm-hmm.
like it has to lure me in one way or another. Like the way Nope was marketed, which I think kind of hurt it in a way. It was marketed as a horror movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember watching it. I'm like, "Ooh, this looks crazy!" Like just kind of blue ball me in a sense, where it's like hint at something that's bigger than what's being projected, or if it's something like a Michael Myers movie,
Mm-hmm.
give me that signature Michael Myers theme song, and like kids running away, like trying not to get like shanked up by him. Like
Mm-hmm.
it has to, at the end of the day, it has to be plot. If the plot is really good, because if the story is really good, I can forgive shitty CGI. I can forgive like shitty deliveries. But if
Mm-hmm.
it's the plot, that's it, you know. And bonus points too if I can walk away, or it's like, what was the commentary?
Mm-hmm.
What were they? Because like for like Saw, it's torture porn at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day. But like if it's something that can make me think like, oh, were they talking about like the injustice of this, or like
Mm-hmm.
this is fucked up? Like this is it's a cool thing where I could sit in my head. I'm like, oh, this was a metaphor for that.
Mm-hmm.
This was that.
Like you can talk about it and dissect like what the horror was about.
Yeah.
I think that's really that's a really fun idea. And for me, I'm kind of I have to admit to you and everyone on this podcast listening right now, I'm the biggest scaredy cat in the world. If those people that are listening have been to horror movies with me, they know I will jump. I will go, oh no. I'll be like, ah. I'll make noises. I'm the worst person to watch horror movies with because I will move. Like if there's a jump cut, I'll like shake in my seat and be like, oh. So I'm the worst. So I'm very easily scared, and that is something that I feel like can get me very easily. But I feel also similar to you that if there's something I can pick apart and really dive into, like, okay, what does this all mean? Like, what is the ideal behind this horror? Then I can rock with it. But I understand your distaste for like things that are just being made for the sake of being made. Like, was it Halloween Ends that just came out?
Yeah, I want to see that one actually.
I've
I've been a
heard
fan of the new.
I've heard nothing but bad things about it.
Same. That hurts
Mhm.
me. That hurts my heart
That's
because
all
I
I've seen
love
on
Jamie Lee
Twitter.
Curtis. She's a
Mhm.
sweetheart.
I saw
The
somebody post a post. She posted a picture like she's like, "Oh, I'm with New York's finest," and then somebody responded like, "I knew she deserved everything she was getting to her." I thought that was I thought that was funny. But I've
but
never
yeah,
actually seen a Halloween movie. I've never seen it.
the the, um the first one in the franchise is the new trilogy really good,
Mhm.
super good. It's one of those ones where it's like it picks off where like the because the Halloween franchise is so weird because there's like so many of them and they
Mhm.
all kind of like branch off into like their own like universes if you will, but they all cherry pick which movies they're based off.
Oh,
So
that's
this
weird.
one, yeah, so it's like one of them in one of the Halloweens, she's actually related to Michael Myers, and
Mhm.
another one she's not related, and it gets weird and murky, you know. But this one, like the first one was really good. I'm talking a new trilogy, and the
Mhm.
second one I enjoyed too. But the only thing I didn't like about the second one was the ending kind of insinuated something, which was like I don't want to get into it if you're gonna watch it or for anyone listening, because it's still a fairly new movie. It's like, damn, like if you would have explored that a little bit early in the movie, that would have been cool. But other than that, it was a solid movie, like worth the watch. But if anything, you could watch it on Peacock, right? And I know a lot of the Peacock executives are like, yes, get that subscription number up.
Yeah, if you want a free subscription to Peacock, just kidding. Just
But you
plug
know what?
Peacock.
I know like your aunt, your mom, some one of your
Mhm.
fucking family members, your auntie, your uncle, they have Peacock. Get it from them
Yeah,
and just go watch
go
Halloween.
talk to your friend that loves The Office and borrow their Peacock membership.
Yeah, just shoot them a couple bucks. Shoot them like $2. Like here, this is like half of your fucking monthly bill. There you go. You watch it for free.
So yeah, I mean I also like Jamie Lee Curtis, and maybe if I'll add it to my list of eye stealing psychopaths and the other one you told me to watch. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Well, we had a very fun time talking about horror movies and all that. And before we wrap everything up here, I want to say thank you everyone for listening. And Lewis, where can people find you?
You can find me. You can find my work on Gamespot.com where I do news and guides, and also on IGN.com where I do guide work. And I've just finished up a guide for a game called Grounded that just came out not too long ago. I'm really excited to be done with that game, and I'm working on a few other projects right now that one I can talk about, the other I can't, but I don't want to talk about it right now, regardless. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. My handles are the same at Luis Terrace. That was a lot. I'm gonna stop talking
You
now.
know, it's okay. You got lots of things to plug. You're a very busy man, and I love that for you. You guys can follow my nonsense tweets and my personal Instagram and TikTok at Noah is Garcia. And if you want to check out my photography, you can go to Noah Garcia _photography on Instagram. And sometimes, very infrequently, I write for the website Daily 49er, part of Long Beach University's publication, and you can catch me there. But thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Bye.